Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever damn near nicked your ball sack or completely ended up chopping your dick off? Well, there's a company here that's sole mission is to prevent this from ever happening again, and they are called Manscaped. Manscaped designed a perfect shaver to ensure that you never nick your balls again, called the Lawnmower 2.0. And as you can see, it's also waterproof, and you could use it on other areas other than just your balls. Now, this company is so legitimate that they were able to secure a huge investment from Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. And I also got a promo code for you guys to use for 20% off. Use promo code Theflightmike to get yourself a nice little discount whenever you shop for Manscaped products. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer here. I am a Laker fan. I'm a pretty big Laker fan. I've been a Laker fan since, ironically, the year of 2004 when I moved to Los Angeles. And the best part is I didn't really get heat for being a bandwagoner because that was the year that the Lakers traded Shaq. So throughout all of these years of Laker fandom, I can honestly say that nothing was more painful for me as a Laker fan than the first Dwight Howard era. So here's what my disclaimer is. Typically, I try to give thoughtful analysis on each situation, but you're gonna see a little bit of emotion in this bit of analysis. I'm gonna try to talk about Dwight Howard, and I hope that you guys could understand where Laker fans come from on the topic of Dwight Howard, because it's not as easy as you think. It's not, oh, we're just getting a contributor, we gotta let the past go away, we gotta forget about the past. Because it's really not that easy. It really isn't. This is someone that really hurt Laker Nation. This is somebody that offended Laker Nation. And I'll take you through the whole story, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. And honestly, the situation could have been worse. But about 7 years ago, the Los Angeles Lakers were on the final legs of their championship dynasty. They've been to 3 NBA Finals, and after the last 2 seasons following those NBA Finals, they didn't really have as much success. In 2011, the 2011 playoffs, they were swept by the Dallas Mavericks, and that was all Phil Jackson needed to see to understand that the Lakers no longer had the talent that they had to get to the finals. The year after, Phil Jackson was validated in the sense that they lost to the OKC Thunder 1-4, only this time they had Mike Brown as their head coach. So clearly the general manager, Mitch Kupchak, had to make something happen. He had to do something different, and he actually did something different. In that offseason, the Los Angeles Lakers would send Lamar Odom and Pau Gasol to the Houston Rockets, and Goran Dragic, Luis Scola, and Kevin Martin would get sent to the Hornets, and the Lakers would receive Chris Paul. But unfortunately, we know what would happen. That trade would get vetoed. But luckily, the Lakers were still able to get Kobe Bryant, who was on his final legs without a doubt, some help in the form of Andrew Bynum being traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, and Dwight Howard coming over to the Lakers from the Orlando Magic. The Magic also got themselves Nikola Vucevic, a player that's still on that team till this day. And honestly, I think that's the only team that won this trade, because following this trade, Andrew Bynum was a shell of his former self. He had a lot of injury issues. He wouldn't see the court that often. You guys already get that deal, but that's a different video for a different day. The whole NBA season, and I was going to make a video on this, but I really wanted it to be the right timing, and I feel like this is the right time to make that video. That entire NBA season following Dwight Howard coming to the Lakers was an absolute shit show, and I'll tell you why. Because Dwight Howard already had trouble with his back, and nobody really talks about this. Dwight Howard had severe back issues. He was not supposed to make his Laker debut until January, but guess what? The man came back for the very first night. Opening night, he came and played for the Lakers. And he looked good. He didn't look like his true dominant self, but he looked good. And again, man, this is the man's back, okay? Like, you have to understand that he's using this thing. He's using this muscle when he's jumping up for rebounds. He's using it when he's posting up. You use your back for damn near everything. And if you don't realize that until you throw out your back, which I've thrown out my back before deadlifting, it is not fun. Now, what ended up happening next is a tumultuous season, and it started with, in the preseason, Mike Brown decided, hey, let me install this Princeton offense. It's very similar to the triangle offense that Kobe Bryant's used to running. It's a system, and I'm sure we could all succeed in it. It was an absolute failure. The Lakers would, after 8 preseason games, they would lose all their preseason games, and they would start 1-4 in the regular season. This caused Mitch Kupchak to completely freak out and say, okay, Mike Brown, you're out of here. And at this point, there was a huge bit of drama, and it was a pretty big decision. The Lakers had to figure out who was going to replace Mike Brown. Now, Dwight Howard wanted to play with Phil Jackson, and I don't blame him, because Phil Jackson literally built dynasties on the shoulders of big men. He built a dynasty around Shaq. He built a mini dynasty around Pau Gasol. Well, at least he went to the finals 3 times with Pau Gasol. And of course, the Chicago Bulls era was a little bit different, but Phil Jackson proved that he can make big men look good, and Dwight Howard didn't feel like he was really the focal point of the offense, which, in his defense, he should have been the focal point of the offense. He was, at that point, the future of the Lakers. But for some reason, and this is the weird part about this whole story, Phil Jackson was contacted first by Mitch Kupchak. Mitch said, yo, Phil, would you come back? Phil said, give me a day or 2 to think about it. Mitch then went ahead and said, we don't have that kind of time. He went ahead and called Mike D'Antoni, which was the head coach that made Steve Nash look really good and resulted in Steve Nash winning those back-to-back MVPs. Now, the Lakers end up hiring Mike D'Antoni, and here's the problem with that. Mike D'Antoni didn't fit in with a single part of that offense, and the only part of that offense that he didn't fit in with him anymore. It was Steve Nash, but Steve Nash at this point was 38 years old. He was not really able to run around the court like he used to. He's 38 years old. So what ends up happening is you get a big man, Dwight Howard, who honestly all he could do in Mike D'Antoni's system is run a pick and roll and dunk the ball. You get Pau Gasol, who wasn't really shooting threes at that point, who was beginning to just spot up at the 3-point line and attempt to shoot threes. You get Kobe Bryant, who's 34 years old, who was playing 48 minutes a game in order to make the best out of this roster, because he knew Dwight Howard would leave if they didn't have some sort of success together. And at the end of the day, you have this huge poop fest. Bear in mind, Dwight is playing injured, but they're trying to make it work. Kobe Bryant would tear his Achilles later on that season in the game against the Golden State Warriors, and Dwight Howard would eventually leave that offseason to join the Houston Rockets. None of which that I really blame him for, because looking back at it, the Houston Rockets were way more promising. They pretty much had a younger version of Kobe, or quote unquote the next version of Kobe. And I'm not saying James Harden is even close to where Kobe's legacy is, but I'm saying in terms of promise at that time, yeah, James Harden was a really promising player, and he was around the same age and fit the timeline of Dwight Howard. They made him seem like a star. They made him seem like the focal point of the offense. I 100% understand why Dwight Howard would want to leave. Now, Laker Nation really hates him, and I really don't blame them for hating Dwight Howard either, considering the fact that this guy literally treated Kobe with disrespect, would act all goofy and stuff during his time with the Lakers, and eventually it would result in him leaving. Now, how does Laker Nation feel about Dwight Howard coming back to the Lakers? And I actually asked you guys this on an Instagram and a Twitter poll. Most of you guys really don't want Dwight Howard to come back, and I honestly can't blame you. But the fact of the matter is, Dwight Howard is definitely not the same player he once was, but he has been playing as effectively, if not more effectively and more efficiently, than he was with the Lakers. In fact, if you take a look at his player efficiency rating, and we'll compare it to his Orlando Magic years as well, his 2010 to 2011 season, his PER was at a 26.1. In 2011 to 2012, his PER was a 24.2. Now, that dwindled all the way to 19.4 during his first year with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, you go to his years in Houston, his first year was at a 21, and it kind of went down from there. and eventually Houston decided not to re-sign him because his final year with Houston, he was at an 18.9. Now, in Atlanta and in Charlotte, he was killing it. He had a PER of about 21. And he didn't really get to play with Washington, so we're not going to really use that data because not enough of a sample size. But the fact remains that Dwight Howard could still give you a lot of production, and considering how his career has fallen off of a cliff ever since he left the Los Angeles Lakers and Houston, his stock is at an all-time low. Now, why is Dwight Howard's stock at an all-time low? This is a guy that, again, we've seen the videos online. We've seen tons of people talk about it. This is a guy that was considered to be the second best player in the NBA. The number one pick in the 2003 NBA draft was LeBron James, and the number one pick in the 2004 NBA draft was Dwight Howard. So what has led to Dwight Howard's complete demise of a career? And the answer is a combination of things. One, he's a little oblivious to the fact that the NBA doesn't really support his game anymore. Gone are the days where you throw the ball into the post and try to develop a team through having a giant in the middle to clear up shots for your other teammates. That's what Orlando did that made him so successful. They surrounded Dwight with a bunch of three-point shooters, and Dwight was a man-child in the post. It was damn near impossible to guard him at the time. So it was very difficult for any team to really guard the Magic when Dwight was doing his thing. Unfortunately for Dwight, he was oblivious to this fact. He thought that, hey, every team would do this for me. But that wasn't really the case. He was the focal point of the offense in Orlando, but he wanted to be the focal point of the offense in LA and in Houston. And by the time he got to Atlanta, where he did have his whole team back in 2016 to 2017, at this point he was 31 years old. At that point, it was a little bit too late. At that point, offenses were changing. Steph Curry tore up the NBA, and people started realizing that if you wanted to be successful, you needed to convert three-pointers at a better rate. You needed to be able to push the pace of the offense. So Dwight Howard's only use in the NBA now is rebounding, defense, and catching alley-oops, which is fine. But he refuses to realize that. And that's the problem. That's why he has a lot of issues. Whenever he goes into a locker room, he acts like he's LeBron James. He literally acts like he's still the second best player in the league. And that's the big problem. He's not willing to buy into what the system requires him to do. He's not really willing to do anything that requires his team to win. And he seems, according to most of his teammates, he seems like a fairly fake personality, and he seems to make a joke out of big and serious situations. And so this has gone to the point, and I guess for lack of a better way of saying this, his teammates freaking hate him. That's the reason why he hasn't been able to get a job. Now, why would this not matter with the Lakers? Well, I think when you're on a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and LeBron James stops making Taco Tuesday posts, and he has this huge chip on his shoulder from what everyone has been saying about him not being able to make the playoffs. When you have a defensive-minded coach like Frank Vogel, and you have a center like Dwight Howard that can neutralize any potential backdoor cut or any potential inside the key threat, I feel like there is a chance that the Lakers, they're definitely not going to get Orlando Magic Dwight Howard at this point. He's 34 years old. He's had a lot of injuries, but I feel like you could get another 20 PER year out of Dwight Howard at the very best. Now, yes, is it emotionally draining? Yes. Am I hurt about what he did, about how he did not get along with Kobe Bryant? Am I upset that he left? Of course. But the fact of the matter remains that could this guy put the Lakers over the hump to help them win a championship? Is Kawhi Leonard going to be, I don't think he's going to be 100% intimidated, but is he going to be thinking about the fact that he has to meet Dwight Howard at the rim whenever he drives the ball inside? Of course, yes. Now, is he, once again, is he the same Dwight Howard? Does he strike fear into his opponent's hearts the way he used to? Does he have DPOY potential? Of course not. But as a role player, especially after DeMarcus Cousins went down, he definitely has a lot of value to contribute. Now, the only issue with this is He's pretty much the same type of player as JaVale McGee. DeMarcus Cousins at least was able to space out the floor a little bit. So that's the only reason I think this could potentially not work. But if he just wants a veteran minimum contract, this is just a low risk, high reward signing. So I want your comments in the comment section down below. Do you think the Los Angeles Lakers should sign Dwight Howard? If so, why or why not? I would really like to hear what you guys have to say. And if you made it to this point of the video, please comment ranch dressing in the comment section down below so I can know you guys are the truest of fans that made it through the whole video. Besides that, man, be sure to subscribe and drop a like. I'm your boy, Theflightmike, and I'll catch you guys later.